The world remembers the Tang Dynasty as elegant, cultured, and refined. But its enemies remembered something else entirely. An empire so powerful that kingdoms paid tribute out of fear. So wealthy that its capital dwarfed every city on earth. And so ruthless that rebellion often ended annihilation. This was not just a golden age. This was a global superpower, and the world trembled before it. The Tang Dynasty ruled China from 618 to 907 AD, nearly 3 centuries of expansion, innovation, and dominance. It was an age of poetry and art, but also conquest, surveillance, and brutal state control. Foreign merchants filled its markets, envoys crossed deserts to kneel before its emperors, and entire regions shaped their politics around Tang power. Here are 12 fascinating facts that reveal why the Tang Dynasty was not just admired, but feared across the ancient world. Fact 1. The Tang Empire was a global superpower. At its height, the Tang Dynasty controlled territory stretching from Korea to Central Asia. Its armies marched across deserts, mountains, and steppes, defeating Turks, Tibetans, and rival Chinese states. For many neighboring kingdoms, resisting the Tang wasn't heroic, it was suicidal. Submission meant survival. Defiance meant destruction. To the outside world, Tang China wasn't just a civilization, it was an unstoppable force. Fact 2. Chang'an was the largest city on Earth. The Tang capital, Chang'an, was the most advanced and populated city in the world. Over 1 million residents lived within its massive walls. The city was strictly controlled. Curfews locked entire districts at night. Guards patrolled the streets. Foreigners were watched closely. Chang'an dazzled visitors, but it also reminded them who held absolute power. Fact 3. The Tang ruled through fear and law. Tang law was highly advanced and merciless. It was codified, precise, and enforced with chilling consistency. Every offense had a defined punishment, leaving little room for mercy or interpretation. Justice was not emotional, it was mechanical. Crimes against the state were punished brutally. Treason, sedition, and even perceived disloyalty invited extreme penalties. Public executions were designed to warn, not to forgive. The message was clear: the state's authority was untouchable. Collective punishment meant families could be executed for one person's betrayal. A single act could erase an entire lineage. Parents, siblings, spouses, and children bore the cost of one individual's defiance. Bloodlines were held accountable, ensuring that loyalty was enforced not just by fear of death, but by fear of annihilating one's own family. Order was sacred. Social hierarchy, ritual behavior, and obedience to authority were treated as moral imperatives. Disorder was not just a crime, it was a threat to the cosmic balance the emperor claimed to uphold. Stability came before mercy. Compassion was considered dangerous if it weakened control. The law existed to preserve the state, not the individual. Personal suffering was irrelevant when weighed against imperial survival, and fear was a tool of governance. Punishment was deliberately visible. Stories of executions spread faster than decrees. Fear traveled where officials could not, disciplining villages and cities alike. This discipline kept the empire stable and its population obedient. For centuries, rebellion was rare, not because the people were content, but because the cost of resistance was absolute. In Tang China, peace was maintained not by trust, but by consequence. Fact 4. Tang armies dominated the Silk Road. The Tang Dynasty didn't just trade along the Silk Road, it controlled it. Military garrisons protected trade routes from bandits and rival powers. Merchants who paid Tang taxes received protection. Those who didn't disappeared. Because of this, Tang China became the heart of global trade and a gatekeeper between East and West. Fact 5. The world paid tribute to the Tang. Dozens of states, from Korea to Southeast Asia and Central Asia, sent tribute missions to the Tang court. These were not friendly visits. They were political submissions. Foreign rulers bowed before the Tang emperor, acknowledging him as the son of heaven. To refuse was to invite war. Fact 6. Tang China was shockingly cosmopolitan. Chang'an hosted Persians, Arabs, Indians, Turks, Koreans, and Japanese envoys. Foreign religions flourished: Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, Zoroastrianism. But tolerance came with surveillance. Foreigners were welcomed and watched. The empire absorbed outsiders without ever losing control. Fact 7. The Tang military terrified the steppe nomadic empires feared Tang strategy. Unlike previous dynasties, the Tang mastered cavalry warfare, adopting steppe tactics and weapons. They fought fire with fire, and often won. Entire nomadic confederations collapsed after facing Tang armies. Fact 8. Empress Wu Zetian ruled with iron authority. Wu Zetian did not inherit power, she took it. Born a concubine, she climbed the imperial hierarchy through intelligence, patience, and calculated cruelty. By the time she seized the throne, the Tang court was already broken by fear. Ministers who questioned her legitimacy vanished. Generals who hesitated were replaced. Even members of the imperial Li family were imprisoned, exiled, or executed to erase rival bloodlines. Wu Zetian ruled through an unprecedented state surveillance system. Secret police operated outside normal law, empowered to arrest, interrogate, and execute without trial. Anonymous accusations were encouraged. A whispered rumor could end a career or a life. Court officials learned that silence was safer than loyalty. Yet her terror was effective. Corruption fell. The bureaucracy functioned. Talent, not noble birth, determined promotion. Wu Zetian understood that fear alone could not sustain an empire, but fear ensured obedience while reforms took root. Under her reign, power was centralized as never before. The throne no longer negotiated, it commanded, and the empire obeyed. Fact 9. Poetry and terror coexisted. The Tang Dynasty is remembered as China's poetic golden age, but poetry during this era was never harmless. Li Bai wrote of freedom and intoxication, yet spent much of his life drifting, careful never to linger near political power. Du Fu chronicled suffering and war. His verses, shaped by exile and poverty after rebellion, shattered the empire. Wang Wei survived by retreating into spiritual ambiguity, writing poems that revealed nothing and everything. Words were dangerous. A metaphor could be read as criticism of the emperor. A lament could be accused of inciting unrest. Officials scrutinized verses for hidden meanings. Poets learned to disguise truth behind landscapes, moons, and wine cups. Despite this, poetry flourished because it had to. It became the only safe way to speak about fear, loss, and injustice. Art did not defy terror. It learned to survive inside it. In Tang China, beauty was not freedom, it was camouflage. Fact 10. Rebellions were crushed without mercy. When rebellion erupted, the Tang response was devastating. Imperial armies moved with overwhelming force, designed not merely to defeat rebels, but to erase the possibility of future resistance. Speed, shock, and excess were intentional. Entire cities were destroyed. Walls were breached, neighborhoods burned, and infrastructure deliberately ruined. A city that rebelled was turned into an example, its ruins serving as a warning to every province watching from afar. Populations were relocated or executed. Survivors were marched across vast distances, broken apart and resettled to prevent local identity from reforming. Others were put to death en masse, their fate recorded to remind future generations of the cost of defiance. The An Lushan rebellion nearly shattered the empire and killed millions. What began as a military revolt spiraled into one of the deadliest conflicts in human history. Trade collapsed, farmland lay abandoned, and famine followed violence. The empire survived, but scarred beyond repair. Afterward, Tang rulers ruled with even harsher control. Trust evaporated, military governors gained enormous power. Surveillance increased. The state tightened its grip, convinced that mercy had invited catastrophe. Peace was restored through blood. Stability returned not because wounds had healed, but because fear ran deeper than hope. In Tang China, rebellion was remembered not as resistance, but as extinction. Fact 11. The Tang shaped East Asia. Forever Korea, Japan, and Vietnam modeled their governments, laws, clothing, and capitals on Tang China. Japan's capital, Nara, was directly inspired by Chang'an. Tang influence became the blueprint of East Asian civilization. To imitate the Tang was survival. To resist it was isolation. Fact 12. The fall of the Tang shook the world. When the Tang Dynasty collapsed in 907 AD, trade routes fractured, borders dissolved, entire regions plunged into chaos. The world didn't just lose an empire, it lost stability. The shadow of Tang power lingered for centuries, long after its throne fell silent. The Tang Dynasty was a paradox, a golden age of culture, built on control, a beacon of civilization enforced by fear, an empire that dazzled the world and terrified it. Its legacy still shapes East Asia today, and its rise remains a warning of what absolute power can achieve. If you enjoyed uncovering the dark power behind China's greatest golden age, subscribe to Untold Dynasties, like the video, and join us as we continue revealing the hidden stories history tried to bury.